Recording.
Excellent.
You are in frame. I am now in frame. Ready?
Ready.
Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to Editing Academy. I'm Darryl.
I'm Laura.
And you want to do the baby
I want to do the baby clap. Little baby clap.
Nice. All right, Laura, what are we here to talk about today?
We are here to talk about When Harry Met Sally, which is my number 8 favorite movie in the world. So it is. Do you have the stuff, or do you want me to do the stuff?
I have
okay.
stuff.
Okay.
So it was released in 1989, directed by Rob Reiner, written by Nora Ephron, who did go on to have her own good career as a director as well.
Yeah.
It stars Billy Crystal, Meg Ryan, Carrie Fisher, and Bruno Kirby, a couple others, but those are the big ones. Was nominated for tons of awards at various award shows and festival, and Nora Ephron did win Best Screenplay at the Academy Awards.
Good for her, and I'm glad. So I'm just going to start out with, I talk about, like, there's movies I love and there's good movies, and sometimes the two are not the same. This is the perfect romantic comedy, and I think it may possibly actually be a perfect movie. There is not a moment wasted, and it is 95 minutes.
It is a tight
movie. It is
movie.
Short and tight, and it has the writing, it has performances, it has great characters, a great story, music to wrap it all up, a really interesting framing device, and director's choices, and I am going to posit that this may be the perfect movie.
Wow,
So
that's a bold statement.
It is a bold statement. So I'm gonna, where was Laura in 1989? Why do I love this movie so much? And I do think a piece of it was that this was the start of the next golden age of romantic comedies.
Sure.
I mean, this is the movie that really kind of started all of the romantic comedies of the late 80s, 90s, and into the 2000s.
A lot of them starring Meg Ryan.
A lot of them starring Meg Ryan. And also, so just in 1989, I'm a freshman in college, and that is the time when you're starting to look at the people that you're dating of this is potentially going to be your forever romantic partner. And so this is, a terrific fairy tale about falling in love with your best friend, and it's just so sweet and cute and compact. And again, I'm a sucker for writing and characters, so I'm going to start there, which is, I wrote down, this was written by the great and the good Nora Ephron.
The great and the good?
She is marvelous, and she is so good at what she does.
Oh.
So the thing I love the most about this is, first of all, these are two people that you cannot imagine anybody else playing. It is, I never would have picked Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan, first of all, to be a romantic pairing. And when you put them together, they just have magic chemistry. And then you put the language and the dialogue that they have, which is so natural and so conversational, and it is very, very funny. It is just two funny, amusing people who are, kind of learning about each other, having a good time. It picks them up at different parts of their lives. The characters evolve. You see them. One of my favorite parts is when they're watching Casablanca at the time when they are friends. And Sally's like, oh, I never said that she should have gone off with Victor Laszlo. That I never would have said such a thing. And she absolutely did. But she has evolved as a person. And he has evolved as a person of men and women can never be friends. And then he has this beautiful, wonderful friendship with a woman. So I love that they evolve, but they absolutely stay the same people.
Can I jump in with one thing real
absolutely.
quick? So I think one of the reasons why their chemistry does work so well together is because of the way that their relationship evolves.
Yes.
They start off not liking each other, and both of them are very good at playing people who don't like other people.
Yes.
Then they become friends, and they're also very good actors at being like the good friends to somebody else.
Yes.
So if it had been any sort of romantic interest in the beginning, I don't think this film would have worked. Because of the setup of how they got to where they are, it played to the actors' strengths, so that when it came for the end thing, it was far more believable. Because right out of the gate, those two you do not buy as a couple.
Absolutely, they have to change to who they are, because again, she becomes a little bit softer. He becomes a little bit less gross.
Yeah.
But throughout it all, too, their relationship, even as friends, is not perfect. She calls him on his bullshit.
Yes.
And she calls him on the fact he's a dog, and he calls her on the fact that she is high maintenance. And then they have a real fight where they say really unkind but true things to each other.
Yep.
And make up and apologize. These are three-dimensional people, and they are performed and played as three-dimensional people. I'll get to their friend group as well, but I love the two of them. I want to get into the structure of the movie and the direction of the movie, but first I want to kind of talk about a little bit more. I want to give you a chance if there's other things on the writing and the characters.
So, yeah, the writing, I think, is the strength of this, and then again,
Mhm.
it's in the hands of the right director. Rob Reiner, we've talked about this before, his strength is being able to bring out characters, to have people inhabit their characters, and his films are always character-focused.
Absolutely.
Which this movie needs to be that, because it's really not the story that matters, it is the characters that,
Yes.
you need to come to love. So everything is right, it was written beautifully, it is in the hands of the right director. Initially, when this first came out, I was always a Billy Crystal fan, but because of his
Mhm.
comedy, not his acting.
Sure.
And I could have taken or left Meg Ryan, she was fine, but she hadn't really done a lot. And initially, when, I didn't see this in the theaters, this was a rental
Oh, okay.
years later. Because, of course, I was dating someone who was like, you must see this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So initially, like, that's not gonna work, but again, I think it's because of the structure of how they bring them slowly together, it plays to their strength, so by the end you do believe it. In my personal opinion, those two were the weaker of the actors in this, it's the supporting cast that I think is the best. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
they're phenomenal, they are
Mhm.
absolutely the right people for the role, but the two best friends
Yep.
are the best characters.
Carrie Fisher and Bruno Kirby are
Yeah.
amazing in this, and their date when they're supposed to be set up with Harry and Sally, and yet they realize that they have the connection. I love that. I love the way you can see the connection happening, and then they go off to the side, and they're like, well, just don't hook up with her right away. Okay, well, just don't hurt his feelings, and then they get the signal with each other, and they're gone in a shot, and I love that.
One of my favorite scenes in this entire thing is, and it's a very guy thing, particularly in 80s and 90s guy thing, is when he's over at Meg's apartment and they're doing the rug and they're pulling out the rug and they're talking about their dates before, and she's giving him all these props like, well, you put yourself out there, at least you tried it, it's gonna be a long time before you're gonna like be able to feel intimate with somebody again. And very guy, he's like, oh no, I totally slept with her.
Yeah, I love that piece. That's very, very funny. The Carrie Fisher, getting back to the Carrie Fisher piece though, is so my sister and I have this thing where whenever either of us says to the other one, oh, you're right, literally the other one will be like, you're right, I know you're right, he's never gonna leave her. Like that is just like on speed dial of anytime we're talking about, you're right, he's never gonna leave her. Talking about Rob Reiner and talking about the framing of this.
Yeah, this
and the
works.
fact, yeah, I love this. So, talk about the framing of the old happy couples kind of in between each of these sections. First of all, so much happens they're on screen for 3 minutes probably a piece. And you can see also each of the actors, they are so well suited for each other that I actually looked up whether they are married couples.
I would assume they are.
They're not, they're all actors. No, they are actors that are put into those positions, but
Wow.
are they perfect
Yeah.
together? You assume they're really married, and I love that these are all incredibly unique stories and relationships, and within 3 minutes you know exactly who these people are, how
You know
they
their
came to be,
relationship.
you know their relationship. I want a full movie of the couple that got divorced and then hooked up again after the funeral. Because I just absolutely love the way that he can't remember the names of his girlfriends and she remembers every single one of them,
Absolutely.
Roberta. So she's keeping tabs on him. And the fact that they hooked up at a funeral because he's with somebody, he's like, what you doing after? It's like, they're adorable. And again, it says so much with so little.
Yeah, the framing of having all these individual things, it opens with one of those. So it's very easy sometimes to forget that that's the framing of this movie, that you are seeing the behind the scenes of one of these stories.
Exactly.
That's all, but that's the majority, obviously, that's the film, that's its intent. But that framing of it is incredibly clever and also does support the overall story that they're telling. How do people get together? You never know exactly what is going to bring two people together. Here's 5 stories of how these people got together, and here's a very long, in-depth version of this particular one. So I think the framing is beautiful.
Yep. I think it's also a love letter to New York in some ways.
Yeah.
It's a fairy tale of New York. It is, it makes New York City look like they're living in a fairyland. They have the beautiful fall in the park. They're going to museums, having lunch outside. They're, you got the Giants game. They're walking everywhere. And it really just made, skating in Rockefeller Square. And it just looked like they had these beautiful, ideal lives. And we're just getting a little bit of a glimpse into this beautiful little fairy tale. Because like you said, this is not going to be a surprise. Boys, boy meets girl, boy's going to end up with girl. It's just the how do they get there and do we care?
Yep.
And the how is really well done. And yes, we do care.
One of the things that I like is, yes, ultimately this is a romantic comedy. I would agree with you that it's probably the pinnacle for romantic comedies to strive for, and it sets the bar very, very high. But this also, at the same time, is a really good story about friendship.
Absolutely.
Because not only are the main characters friends, but you see and it's constantly reinforced the friendships that they have with their friends.
Yes.
And how the two friends, when they get together and marry, the friendship that they have love for each other, but they also have a very good friendship with each other. So that's something that I think often gets overlooked in this, is because everybody talks about the romance of it, but it's also an in-depth study in friendship.
Yep. I think that's a really, really good point. And then the last thing I want to talk about, because everyone talks about this when they see this movie, is the music. Just the music that they chose, and obviously it's Harry Connick Jr. and it's how he made the main stage. Is people didn't know who he was before this, except for New Orleans, and so he just gave this movie a timeless quality.
Yeah.
So it's the old standards, and in the movie a lot of them are played, but some you're hearing the Sinatra version, the Perry Como version, you're hearing all of the old standards. But then you're also hearing the new way he is mixing these songs, and then at the end, it's Harry Connick Jr. singing. So it's kind of like going the old-timey, this could be any point in time, and then there's a newness and a new, fresh arrangement that is beautiful.
I think you're correct that the movie overall is timeless. The only thing that takes you out of that is the outfits, because the outfits are very dated for the time, and that's not anybody's fault. It was just like what they were wearing, so that's fine.
And I think it's very purposefully over the top of what they were wearing, between the blue eyeshadow and the aquanet and all that kind of stuff, which was accurate, but they wanted you to place it in a certain time.
Someone said this the other day, and it might have actually been you, so if I'm quoting you, I apologize.
It'll be like Bruno Kirby. I've never been quoted to me before.
But at some point, a timeless movie, by its nature, does become a period piece.
It was not me, but that's an interesting concept.
So I can see this one becoming a period piece because of the nature of the clothing and the hairstyles and things. The story itself is timeless, and everything surrounding it, everything involved with it is timeless. But it becomes a period piece because the clothing and the hairstyles and everything are so specific of its time.
Agreed, and also there is a big difference between pre-cell phone movies and post-cell phone movies too. Like they are together because you go to somebody's house. You don't just call, you don't just like call them on the phone all the time. You call the phone to go over their house, and the morning after they slept together, you see that Harry has stopped a payphone. That's why he's so again. If he had a cell phone, it would be a different movie. And I loved that scene too, the split screen scene with her calling Carrie Fisher. And again, with the friendship is their friends hoped they would get together. They saw what Harry and Sally couldn't see, so they wanted them to get together, and they were happy for them. But they also, understood and were there for them when it went awry.
We'll have a conversation offline about since the invention of cell phones and their everyday practical use, how lazy film writing has become.
Very much so.
Anyway.
Yeah, very much so. So this is everything I'm looking for in a movie. This is a good story. It doesn't have to be unique. It doesn't have to be special. It just has to be well done and well executed, with believable conversational dialogue, with people I care about,
and its own take.
And having the director not be lazy. Like, he could have just filmed them in all the shows, but he did something different. He did something cool and interesting. And the background of the music and the visuals of New York just made it all the more interesting.
It always surprises me how many times a good romance story takes place in New York,
Mhm.
how just well suited the scenery of New York
Yes.
is to a love story. It's
Yeah.
just something about it just works. Like Chicago, sure, the plains, sure, but there's something about the intimacy of New York that just lends itself to a good romance.
I think it's in such a large space, people finding each other seems to be such a, you know, you don't believe that it can happen, and so it's a little bit of a fairy tale in and of itself, but, yep, absolutely love this.
All right, I have nothing else. I think it's phenomenal. It is a fantastic, fantastic movie and the cream of the crop for rom-coms, without a doubt.
Awesome, excellent.
All right.
All right, thanks everyone, bye.